The Mid-Life Metamorphosis. The sun had not yet crested the horizon when Elena felt it, a low, rhythmic thrumming deep within her marrow. It wasn't the familiar ache of a long night over legal briefs or the tension of an upcoming trial. It was a tectonic shift in the quiet geography of her soul. She sat on the edge of her bed, the high thread count sheets feeling suddenly heavy and restrictive, as if her very bones were hollowing themselves out to make room for something lighter, something primordial. In the sterile glow of the bathroom vanity, the mundane routine of a corporate life met the impossible. As Elena reached for her toothbrush, she saw it, a single iridescent feather, the color of a vibrant cyan, sprouted from the hollow of her collarbone. It was soft yet sharp, a defiant sliver of wildness against her skin. She touched it, expecting it to vanish like a dream, but it held firm, vibrating with a frequency that her coffee and spreadsheets could never provide. By mid-morning, the transformation had reached her shoulders. Elena struggled into her charcoal power suit, the fabric that usually felt like armor now feeling like a straitjacket. The seams groaned against her shoulder blades, which had become prominent and sharp. Every time she reached for her phone, she felt a phantom stretch, an urge to expand that the tailored wool simply would not allow. The professional persona she had built over 20 years was literally bursting at the seams. From her 34th floor office, the world below looked like a grid of tiny, predictable boxes. Elena pressed her forehead against the cool glass, her breath fogging the window. Above, the sky was a vast, unwritten poem of cerulean and gold. She watched a hawk circle the updrafts between the skyscrapers, and for the first time in her career, the stack of contracts on her desk looked like nothing more than heavy, gray stones. The sky wasn't just a view, it was a calling. The afternoon deposition was a blur of legal jargon until a sudden silence fell. As Elena reached across the mahogany table to hand a document to her colleague Marcus, a cyan feather slipped from her sleeve. It drifted through the air with agonizing slowness, landing softly atop a pile of evidence. Marcus froze, his pen hovering over his notepad, his eyes darting from the shimmering quill to Elena's panicked face. The logic of the law had no category for the magic lying between them. Elena retreated to the sanctuary of the executive restroom, locking the door with a trembling hand. She splashed cold water on her face and forced herself to look into the mirror. Her eyes were changing, turning a piercing, predatory gold. The pupils were shifting, sharpening, seeing the world not in terms of precedence, but in distance and velocity. The woman she had been was receding, replaced by a creature that knew nothing of billable hours or corporate hierarchies. She tried to resist the inevitable. She buried herself in work and even visited a specialist, Dr. Silas, who spoke of rare skin conditions and stress-induced anomalies. He poked and prodded with cold instruments, offering creams and clinical logic to quiet the wildness. But as he spoke, Elena could only hear the whistling of the wind. She realized that science was just another set of walls, and she was far too tired of being contained. The hallway felt a mile long as Elena attempted to leave for the day. She kept her head down, her coat bunched tightly around her neck, but the change was too aggressive to ignore. Her assistant Sarah stepped out of a cubicle to hand her a file, only to stop in her tracks. A row of cyan feathers had breached the collar of Elena's coat, shimmering like jewels in the harsh office light. Sarah's mouth opened, but no words came. The mask had finally fallen away. Back in her office, the walls began to vibrate with a perceived confinement. The bookshelves filled with thick, leather-bound volumes felt like the bars of a cage. The hum of the computer, the ticking of the clock, they were all tethers, heavy chains keeping her grounded in a life that no longer fit the shape of her soul. Elena paced the small space, her movements becoming light and bird-like, her spirit clawing at the ceiling. She didn't take the elevator. She took the stairs, climbing higher and higher until she reached the heavy steel door to the roof. With a strength she didn't know she possessed, she pushed it open. The wind hit her like a long-lost friend, pulling at her hair and whistling through the plumage that now covered her arms. The roar of the city below was a distant memory. Here, there was only the cold, clean air and the promise of the heights. Elena stood on the very edge of the parapet, the stone cold beneath her feet. She looked down at the briefcase she had dropped, a small black speck on the gravel. She thought of the life she was leaving, the safety, the titles, the predictable path. Her entire body was now visibly covered with a dense, shimmering layer of blue cyan feathers. She took a deep breath, letting the last of the lawyer fall away, and leaned forward into the empty, beckoning space. She did not fall. The air caught her, lifting her up on a thermal that smelled of rain and freedom. Her body was now entirely transformed into a bird with vibrant blue cyan feathers, her corporate clothing left behind on the roof like a discarded cocoon. With a single, powerful beat of her wings, Elena surged upward. She was no longer a woman defined by her career. She was a creature of the currents, weightless, naked of her past, and finally, beautifully free.